Moving further afield, Zimbabwe is to see the formation of yet another political party. The country's former Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. Walter Msipa, has been appointed interim leader of the People's Party. Dr. Msipa and a number of the former Mugabe allies are now living outside Zimbabwe, having fled the country following the removal of President Mugabe from power in 2017. So what does this party hope it can do, and will it make a difference in the country that's facing enormous challenges? I'm now joined via Skype from London by the party's Secretary General, Lloyd Msipa. Mr. Msipa, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program. Does Zimbabwe need yet another political party?
Thanks for the opportunity, Peter. Yes, there's a political stalemate in Harare, and it has been going on since the formation of the MDC in 1999. We've been having hotly contested elections starting from 2000, and remember the 2008 elections that produced a runoff when the ZANU-PF lost the first round of the presidential election, and then obviously ushered in the Mbeki-brokered GNU. After that, we had 2018, which also produced another contested election. So in our analysis, we are saying there is room for a game changer. There's room for which is the People's Party. For so long, our people have been subjected to this seesaw between ZANU-PF and the MDC. And the MDC and ZANU-PF themselves are no longer genuine anchors for the people's aspirations. Because ZANU-PF approaches people with a sense of entitlement. MDC, being a labor-based party, cannot claim legitimacy anymore because there's no country. So this invites another player. This gives provision to another player because they've taken upon themselves to say, we will live from the liberation. And there are no formal structures by way of labor. And the People's Party has taken up agency and representing the people.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the leadership. Dr. Walter Msipa, and the question, I guess, is, he was a former Foreign Affairs Minister, former Tourism Minister, and the question might be, is he an asset or a liability given that he served former President Robert Mugabe for so long?
He's an asset. You speak to everybody, he's an asset. He's a recognized technocrat, a long-term tourism minister. And remember, he went all the way to the UN as a brand ambassador, and the whole of Africa actually coalesced around this man. And by the time of the coup, he was a foreign affairs minister. And if you look at his profile and where he's coming from, he was never involved in the toxic politics of ZANU-PF. He was always a technocrat representing Zimbabwe at the highest level. He's indeed an asset. He's young. People of Zimbabwe are looking for youthfulness. So it now speaks to the generational consensus that we're looking for. And, the only way is up with Dr. Msipa at the helm.
So people have said that he's a fugitive from the law, and that's why he fled the country. There were charges proffered against him for the time he spent as tourism minister. What do you make of that? And could someone like that, if it's true, lead a party?
Peter, there's a world of difference between a person who's a fugitive and a person who is running away from persecution. I'm aware that as of recently, the president of Zimbabwe has labeled not only him, many of the other guys who actually left Zimbabwe fearing persecution as enemies of the state. There's a world of difference between somebody who is a fugitive and somebody fearing for his own life. In this particular instance, Dr. Msipa and many others are being persecuted for refusing to support Emmerson Mnangagwa in his ascendancy to power through the military coup. And that's what it is. It's got nothing to do with any crime that they've committed. He has not refused to face justice. But in this particular instance, it doesn't make sense to face a regime that's going to take you and incarcerate you with a view to shutting you down. So in due course, as the time will come, you will return to Zimbabwe and face whatever has to be faced, and most particularly to lead the people.
All right. So
himself, day to run away from Zimbabwe. That shows you what the regime can do if you face it the way it is.
All right. You said Mr. Mzimba was a technocrat and he stayed away from the politics within ZANU-PF. What do you think he'll be able to do as the leader of this party that he wasn't able to do whilst he was actually sitting in cabinet and able to affect change? And all we saw was the deterioration of a country during that time.
Dr. Walter comes unblemished, unlike the rest of the other guys. If you look at the way the tourism ministry was run, the track record, that would tell you, given an opportunity to run a country, what would happen. So I would place him in the same category as the rest of the other toxic individuals. He has always separated from. If you look at the way he marketed our force as the destination of choice, and the current regime is still riding on the point that he professed at the time he was tourism minister.
All right. So, what are the big issues in Zimbabwe, and how are you going to fix them?
Well, of course, a house divided, on itself, a nation divided against itself will not stand. So the biggest issue here is uniting Zimbabweans. And Emmerson Mnangagwa had an opportunity to do that post the November 27 coup and after the 2018 elections. He did not do that. Actually, he has further divided the nation. The People's Party is saying the nation needs to be united. And in solving our problems, if we unite the nations first, then we can now target all the energy of the people of Zimbabwe towards solving our problems. The current president, he has not united the nation. He has actually divided the nation much further and calling other citizens of the state. Zimbabwe is the only country where opposition members are labeled as prisoners. So you can see the extent to which we polarized. So we have a whole diaspora, 40% of our people going into the region, running away from the economic and political persecution that's obtaining in Zimbabwe. So as things stand, we've got 40% of people outside Zimbabwe. The People's Party is taking up agency on behalf of those people in the diaspora and saying that from now on, any initiative that goes on in Zimbabwe that does not involve the diaspora community is illegitimate.
All right, talking about illegitimate, Professor Jonathan Moyo, former education minister, wrote a book recently that said that the last elections were rigged and that not many elections before that were free and fair. Do you think that this climate is true and will continue? And if that's the case, then how will you get into power?
I've had the opportunity to read Dr. Moyo's book, and it speaks well into, mostly it focuses on the 2018 election, and it's actually brings out where the problem is. We had a problem under President Mugabe, but nothing justified the constitutional, overthrow of a sitting president. Because what it did, it upset constitutionalism, it upset the whole concept of statecraft. So we have a military dictatorship that is, obtaining in Harare, which is now running elections in their own way. And the last election written by Professor Moyo simply highlights or speaks to the problems that we have going forward, meaning that any elections that are going to be held in Zimbabwe being run by a military dictatorship are null and void. So we have to speak in terms of reforms. Things have to change. Any political party that dares contest elections in the current environment is a waste of time. 2023, under the current environment, would be a waste of time. That is why the People's Party is saying, we're not waiting for 2023. We want Emmerson Mnangagwa to go now, step down now, and allow Zimbabwe to democratize as a civilian institution, with civilian institutions.
All right, we've run out of time, but very briefly, there's a party called the Zimbabwe People's Party in Zimbabwe that said that you've stolen their name. Quick comment on that.
We did not steal any name. If we, like anybody else, intending to form a party in Zimbabwe, you notify the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, of which we did and they wrote back to us on the 6th of November confirming that they have noted us as a political party. And if you notice that we are People's Party, they are Zimbabwe People's Party, and noted with ZEC, MDC 199, MDC Alliance. So the proximity, I don't see how you can commodify people's or party. The names are as different as night and day. So for me, it's not an issue. We are simply mentioning one. The biggest problem we have in the country is a cabal that is terrorizing our people, and that is where our energy should be focused on.
All right, Mr. Msipa, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. That was the Secretary General of a newly formed party in Zimbabwe called the People's Party. And we'll have more on that as it unfolds.